All right, here we go. This is our exponential function review. So again, you have two reviews. One I'm going to do with you through YouTube. The second you're going to do on your own, trying to get as much information from what you learned in the first video. And I'm hoping to get this into two videos. So I'm going to just get started, jump right in. We're already 20 seconds in. Okay, so the first one, it says evaluate each of the following at n equals 4. So what that means is you're going to substitute in 4 for n. So this one would be -2 to the 4th. And these two look very similar, and a lot of people think they're going to get the same answer for them because it's just -2 to the 4th power, and this one says -2 to the 4th power, but they're not the same. This one is including the negative. This one is not including the negative being repeated. So this one actually really is written like this: -1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So there's only one negative being multiplied in there. This one says -2 to the 4th power, and it's -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. And so you can see how the negative is repeating on this one. The negative doesn't repeat, it's only there one time. So this one is actually -16. So you have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16, times -1 is -16. This one is -2 times -2 is 4, +4, times -2 is -8, times -2 is +16. So this is actually +16. +16, -16. And the last one, you're just simply substituting it in for n there, and you get -8. Okay, next up it says, find the next 3 terms in the sequence. And it says, well, I'm looking at my sequence here, and you can kind of tell that it's being multiplied. Well, the first one is being multiplied by 4. But let's say you didn't know that. Let's say you couldn't tell that 4 times 4 was 16. Let's say you weren't sure about that. What you can always do when it's being multiplied by something is you take the second term of 16 and you divide it by the first term. And 16 divided by 4 gives you 4. And this is a good skill to have, especially when you get down to number 4. Okay, so we practice this skill on something that we know, so we get the right answer of what we know, and then we can use it for problems that we don't know. And then you should get the same answer for these two. So 64 divided by 16. Okay, and just to make sure we get it right, 64 divided by 16, and you get 4 again. So that means our common ratio here for this sequence of numbers is 4. And then it says find the next 3 terms, okay? So once we know what the common ratio is, we know what's being multiplied by. So we're just going to take 256, so 256 times 4, and we get 1024, okay? And then you multiply it by 4 again, and you get 4096. And then you need one more, so we're going to multiply by 4 again, and you get 16,384. And you're done. That's your next 3. Okay, this one, it is not being multiplied, and you can tell that it's not being multiplied by a negative number because it doesn't go back and forth with the negative number, because the negative number times the negative number is, of course, positive. So this one, we're looking at finding a sequence here going on, and we're trying to figure out, okay, is it being multiplied or subtracted? And it looks like this one's being subtracted. So it's subtracting 0.25 each time. So every time it's subtracting 0.25, and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so -1 subtracting 0.25 is -1.25. And then the next one would be -1.5. And this one's kind of easy to do in your head because you should be used to recognizing like money and 25 cents, okay? All right, next one, it says, given the geometric sequence 1, 5, 25, and 125, find the common ratio in the next 3 terms. Okay, so the common ratio, again, we're going to use our skill here, is to take the second term. So we're going to take the second one, and we're going to divide it by the first one, okay? Or we can take the fourth one and divide it by the third one. So we can really just divide it by the previous one. So in this case, we have 5 divided by 1, and of course that's 5. Or we can say the fourth one is 125, and we're going to divide that by 5. And of course, wait a minute. Did we get that right? So the fourth one, oh, we divided by 25, sorry. Divided by 25, and of course we get 5. I was like, wait a minute, 125 divided by 5 is not 5, but 125 divided by the previous one of 25 is. So we know our comma ratio is 5. So we can say comma ratio equals 5. And now we want to know the next, does it say 3 terms? Yeah, 3 terms. Next 3. So we take our comma ratio and we multiply it by the last one. So we have 125 times 5 is 625. And of course, we're going to multiply 625 times 5 to get the next term, and that's going to be 3,125. And we take that term and we multiply it by 5, and we get our final term of 15,625. And we're done. Okay, so here's where the numbers get a little crazier. It's not as easy to recognize what is happening with 1,200 and 1,560. So it says James' bank account balances forms geometric sequence. At the end of the first month, he had $1,200, $1,200. Pardon me. At the end of the second month, he had $1,560. At the end of the third month, he had $2,028. Man, I wish I could get that kind of return at my bank. What is the balance at the end of the 5th month? Okay, so we know the first 2 terms, or the first 3 terms. So we have 1,200. We have 1,560. And then we have 2,028. So this one is not as easy to recognize as, say, that one or the previous one, where you could go through and go, oh, yeah, that's being multiplied by 4. Oh, clearly that's being multiplied by 5. So, again, that's why we practiced the tools in the last one, where we learned how to divide the second term by the first term, or the fourth term by the third term, and we should get the same answer each time. And you pick a number and you divide it by the previous one. So if you pick this number, you got to divide it by this one. If you pick this number, you got to divide it by this one. So I'm going to take 1,560, and I'm going to divide it by the previous term. And we're going to see what we get. So we have 1,560 divided by 1,200, and we get 1.3. Okay, so now that we know our comma ratio, okay, it was asking what is the balance at the end of the 5th month. Okay, so we just need 2 more spots, which means we got to take 1.3, and we're going to multiply that by 2,028. Okay, and so we get 2,636.4, $2,633.4. And then we multiply by 1.3 again, and there's our 5th term. Okay, and that's that. There's your 5th term right there. The common mistake on this one is that people only find this one. You have to, in this one, because they don't really give you the formula, or you haven't really had to derive the formula yet, or come up with the formula, I shouldn't say derive. People forget to get this term to get this one. You have to multiply by 1.3 twice. Okay, so I'm running up against the wall here. I like to keep my videos at 10 minutes, so I'm probably going to call it after this problem. Okay, use the given information to decide which equation will be easiest to find the indicated value. Find the value and explain your choice. Okay, so for this one, find the value of the 5th term. Well, if we look through here, it says the value of the 4th term is -32, and the sequence is multiplied by -2 each step. So it says find the value of the 5th term. I could use the recursive rule, right? If I want the 5th term, I can take the previous term and multiply it by the comma ratio, okay? So if I know what the 4th term is, which I do, so I have -32, and we're going to multiply by the comma ratio of -2, we get 64. And my explanation is I used recursive because I knew the previous term. Previous term. Okay. It says find the value of the 10th term. Well, that means I'd have to multiply by -2 5 more times to get that 10th term. And there's an easier way to do that. If we use the explicit equation on this one, we can actually substitute 10 in for n there, and we can say 4 times -2 to the 10 minus 1. Okay, and now we use our calculator, and since the 10th term is so far out there, and we don't want to have to multiply like -2 times -2 or -2 times -2 times -2, we can actually just substitute in and say 4 times -2. Use our exponent. Okay, on this calculator, it's that little triangle or that little hat button. Okay, that's our exponent button, and we can say 10 minus 1, and I'm just going to put straight 9 in there. Okay, and then we end up with -2048. And we can say for our explanation is we didn't know the last term. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little break here. I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to upload in the next one for the next